Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. It is the Monday edition of the Michael Dukes Show, and we have got a whole weekend worth of stuff to go on and discuss this morning. We appreciate you guys coming in and being part of it today as we navigate some crazy times. Let's just put it that way. Navigating some crazy times here in the world as we go through. We've got a lot of stuff to kind of handle today. We're going to discuss and go over a lot of the headlines that took place over the weekend, some of the great opinion pieces that are out there as well. But I also want to do a little bit of polling because I've been, with everything that happened over the weekend. I will say that I did spend about 15 minutes on social media this weekend. That was the extent of what I could handle. And I saw a lot of people just literally losing their minds, over what's going on with the national security, Operation Midnight Hammer, the strike in Iran, and et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that I wanted to do this morning is I wanted to get a feel from you guys, the listeners. And so today, throughout the show, we're going to be taking some calls, and those calls are going to be basically your thoughts on the strike in Iran. Do you think it was a viable solution? Do you think it was a smart thing to do, an accurate thing to do? Should we have done it, I guess, is the bottom line question. Now, I know we don't normally handle national issues on the program, but this thing is so big and had such a tremendous, it was really a surprise for most of us, and has had such an interesting backlash, in my opinion, that I think that we would be remiss if we at least didn't touch on it this morning. And so I want to know what you have to say. 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. And I'll take calls throughout the whole show this morning. And I want to get your take on this. Was it the call that should have been made? And by the end of the show, I'll tell you where I'm at. I've already, I've made my decision, but I want to kind of see where you guys are at here this morning before I sound off on my own things. Hint. Yes. Let me just say yes right now. That's my hint right now, but I'll talk about my reasons and everything else here in a little bit, as we get ready to go through some of the other, stories that we're going to be covering. Of course, the huge wildfires going on across the whole state, including up in the interior. Thursday night through Friday. I don't know if you caught it on the program, but I was a little worried about my folks because they had a fire that broke out not too far from where they were at. And I was a little worried. That fire has since been contained, but it gets a little spooky when you see a lot of these fires breaking out all over the place. We'll give you some details on and numbers on what's happening and what's going on out there with that. Kevin McCabe has been writing a lot And he's got another good piece that came out on Saturday about education here in the state of Alaska. And he makes a lot of the points that we've been talking about here on the show, and makes them in a very, I think, well thought out and consistent way, talking about the education industrial complex and what it means for the state of Alaska. What have they been focusing on, and what should they be focusing on? That's a good piece as well. We're going to get into that. Lisa Murkowski has got a brand new book out, and it's going to be interesting. It'll be Charles Wolforth is the writer of the book, and it's her memoirs, and it is well, I don't know if it's a bit of revisionist history, but it's definitely history through a certain lens or a certain viewpoint or perspective. And we're going to discuss that here in just a little bit as well. Also, the latest from the Department of Labor and what's going on with the state GDP and where does it look like it's going from here. We're going to try and get to that here before we run out of daylight for today. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things happening here this morning. But again, first and foremost, I really would love to hear what you guys have to say on the strikes in Iran. Now, for those of you who have been living under a rock and don't know, good for you. First of all, good for you that you were out of the not that we could have made a hill of beans difference about any of this, but even I, with my unpluggedness, heard about what happened over the weekend. Again, strikes in Iran overnight, striking their nuclear facilities, their enrichment, and both their enrichment and some of their, I guess, design and manufacturing facilities at Fodor and Isfahan, and one more here that I can't remember right off the top of my head. But it was a complete and total surprise attack. B-2 bombers. In fact, a whole contingency of B-2 bombers left the United States, some of them heading west towards Guam as a feint, while the other ones slipped off apparently at high altitude and then made straight for Iran, and then in a nighttime attack dropped a series of bunker buster weapons. I mean, these things are 30,000 pounds a piece. They're huge. They dropped 6 of them. That was it. 6 of them. And threaded the needle and dropped 2 on each target. And the president came out in a very, very short speech and basically said that with their facilities have been completely obliterated, and that their ability to process and to construct nuclear weapons has been derailed essentially and stopped. Now, we know that Charlie just said they dropped 14. Okay. I was the everything that I had read said that they dropped 6, but hey, your mileage should vary. I don't know how many it was. It was big. It was a lot. Let's just put it that way. As far as poundage goes, since each one of them weighed 30,000 pounds, that's a lot of ordnance to drop on target. Anyway, we all know that this regime is going to continue to try and procure and prolong its fight with the United States in the West. If this has delayed that by a year or 2 or 5, that's great, because any delay in that kind of stuff is, I think, a good thing. But they are going to they're going to continue. I thought what was really interesting, and that again, not an analyst or a wartime guy, but what I saw with what was happening with Mossad with the Israeli strikes was that they were not only targeting hard infrastructure and actual physical assets, but they also had they had those assassination squads where they went through and not only decapitated the military commanders, but they also apparently killed a whole lot of nuclear scientists, the people who had the know-how on how to build, which is, I think, probably the more important thing at this point. If you want to slow that program down, it's the people who have the knowledge of how to build it that needed to be pulled down. So anyway, this morning, I want to hear what you guys have to say. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Was it the right thing? Or was it more warmongering? You know, what really got me is that all the screaming that I saw on Facebook and X and everything else, you know, where the people were just, you know, screaming about, you know, warmongering and this and that. And there's just a lot of shrillness going on. That's when I said pushback or backlash from the internet. That's what I was talking about. There's people out there that, you know, obviously they're not aligned with the president, which is fine. That's their right. That's happened. It's from both sides. No big deal. But how they were so shrill about this, yet at the same time, when my wife and I were talking about this, when Biden or Obama or Bill Clinton made many of these unilateral moves about striking in enemy territory with lightning strikes, you know, where was their outrage then? That's what kills me. Where was the outrage then? It was, I mean, non-existent, because I guess it was their guy in the White House. So as long as it's your guy doing the thing, it's okay. It's when somebody else's guy or a guy that you oppose does it that then it becomes a whole thing. And it's just, I don't know. It's frustrating to watch us kind of tear ourselves apart over this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So anyway, it's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend, and we'll be going over all that and more, and including some questions from the chat room here, which I don't necessarily have the answer for. We'll take a look at it. All right. That means we're up against the break, so we're going to get started on some of these headlines and more, and then maybe we'll consolidate some of the discussion. We'll consolidate some of the discussion into hour 2 from some of the comments in the chat room. And then, of course, we'll also, again, take some of those phone calls at 319-527-3864. But we're going to get started here in just a second with the latest for all the fires that are going on. It is wildfire season, and it's going to be... it's interesting already. It's going to be an interesting one as we go through. So we'll start off there in just a few moments. We'll be back with more. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, my friends, hello and good morning to you. How are you guys doing this morning? You guys ready to rock and roll? How was your solstice weekend? How was the solstice for you guys? Up in the interior, you guys had had the big shindig. Had a big shindig up there. All kinds of stuff going on. All right. I see we got one caller on hold. So let me make sure that I got everything squared away here this morning. Shall we test it? I think we should test it. We got one caller on hold, and we're going to go over there right now to make sure that they can hear us and we can hear them, et cetera, before I embarrass myself on the air. Okay, let's start over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Ben calling from Skeena Accidents.
Okay. All right, my friend. Hold on a second here. Did you say your name was Ben?
Yes.
Okay, Ben. Hold the line. Yes. You'll be first up in the queue. As soon as we return to the air, you will be number one with a bullet. So don't go anywhere. We'll get to you here as soon as we get back on the air. Sorry. I just was reading a comment as I started saying that. Brian says, well, man, but like that was like different, man. We can't just let Sudan make aspirin, man. That's like totally illegal, man. I mean, I'm sure there will be some difference as to why they could support their guy, but not the other guy, right? I'm sure that's important. I'm sure that's the thing. But man, I get so tired of watching everybody tear everybody else apart just because they have a difference of opinion. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. I'm seeing a lot of people saying in the chat room that they definitely supported the strikes. And you know, not that I expected anything different from the listeners here. Although I think some of my libertarian friends had made some comments on this. They're a little concerned. Thomas Massey had gotten up in front and said that he, hey, where's the congressional approval and oversight, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's some folks out there who are making waves on our side of the fence as well. But overall, definitely an interesting, I guess, may you live in interesting times. It's not just a fortune cookie, right? It's right now. Okay. Barbara said they had a bit of a snafu in one evac order on the Elliott because the road was closed by Haystack. So there was no evac point to the north. Should have been set up. Okay. Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, it's always in the after action review that you can find all those things that you need that needed to be fixed. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into this whole wildfire season thing, which is kind of crazy. It's some of the pictures this year especially of the Bear Creek fire, which is down there in Healy, pretty massive right now, and definitely gonna be a strong summer for the wildfire season. Definitely gonna be a crazy time. All right. Let's see, where are we at? We're 40 seconds out right now. Ben is waiting on the line. We're going to get to Ben here in just a second. Okay, 14. Yep, there you go. Thank you, Charlie. I just got an updated story about 75 precision-guided weapons, 14 GBU bunker bursters deployed by 7 B-2 Spirit bombers. There you go. All right, we're going to continue here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Ben is on the line. We're going to jump to him first and get his thoughts before we move on to this other stuff. Let's do this thing and see where we go from here. Let's do it.
The Michael Dukes Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay, we are back, continuing now. Discussions with you. We got one line on hold. Ben is on the line from down on the Kenai Peninsula. Ben wants to share with us this morning. Ben, what's your thoughts today?
So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Well, I noticed nobody had called right away, and you get plenty of opportunity, so I thought I'd put my opinion in there. I personally think that, what the president did, the decision that he made, I think it was the right call. I'm not a military guy. I can't really, stand toe to toe in a conversation about strategy and what's right and what's wrong. But, I remember where I was on 9/11, and, I was in my 20s, and, it's obvious that they hate us. It's obvious they'll do anything to kill a lot of us all at once. So, I mean, I feel that when Biden was president, the rest of the world saw us as weak, and, we were decaying. And I think in 250 years, the reason this country is still free is because we're not afraid to make those decisions. So I just feel it was the right call. Being a father and a husband, I want to help my family safe from terrorism and, things of that nature.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, Ben. I think that we're not just, this is not just a country that's just a country. This is a country that is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. They've been chanting death to America since 1979. And, they're not a friendly nation. And the idea of this organization that has been backing small terrorist cells and organizations around the world for years, the idea that they would somehow be able to develop a fully deployable nuclear weapon, whether in a ballistic missile or whether in a backpack form, is kind of terrifying at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And, and that's, and whether there's backlash or not, I mean, you like to say, it's even just in a backpack, you got to weigh the pros and the cons. We're always going to be fighting with them. There's no denying that. There's always going to be a problem over there. But it's better to stay ahead of the game than just sit around and wait for it to happen.
Yeah, no, like I said, even if they've just delayed it by 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, any delay in that kind of power is definitely a good thing, I think. And as you said, we've shown, President Trump showed his resolve. He showed what he believed in. And in fact, there was a commentary early this morning that some of the NATO allies now have stepped up and said that they'll pay their kick into NATO, which is what they've been declining to do for years. And so I think this is a good sign from that perspective. But I'm with you. I'm always worried about these kind of bad actors, because they're the ones that can drag people into full-blown, full-on world wars.
Right, exactly. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and again, a big fan, and thanks for hearing my opinion.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben, for participating and calling in this morning. I appreciate you being part of it today. If you want to sound off, 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. Do you think that the president did the right thing? Do you think that this was the right call at the right time? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this. Give us a ring this morning if you want to sound off, and we'll talk about it. Like I said, we don't normally deal with national or international issues, but this is a big enough one that I think we needed to take a little bit of a crack at it, just to see where we were at here. The other big news here for the state of Alaska, of course, is the wildfires. And there has been an intense bout of activity all through last week. I got a call. It was late Thursday night. I was actually asleep. Late Thursday night from a coworker who lives up by where my parents were, and they said, "Hey, did you know that this is going on? That they just gotten the notification for Ready, Set, Go from the borough, that there potentially was an order to evacuate." That was a fire that doubled in size in about 90 minutes up on the top of Gilmore Trail. And I hadn't. So anyway, we made sure everybody was safe. And overnight, they did get that fire put out, but not before it had essentially tripled, or maybe not put out, but contained, I guess. Not before it tripled in size up there. This is going to be a big one, folks. This is going to be a big one. 150 fires sparked by lightning strikes around Alaska just in the last week. There was something like 264 fires reported or something like that. Currently, there's over 150 of them burning. The biggest one right now is, or one of the biggest ones, is the Bear Creek Fire, which is north of Healy. And that is burning near mile 263 of the Parks Highway. Currently, the highway is only intermittently open as they run pilot cars up and down through about a 8-9 mile stretch there just north of Healy. The Denali Borough has issued new evacuations Friday night. There were numerous structures that were imminently threatened. And the state had air tankers and helicopters and everything else bringing in water buckets and dumping water on the whole program. There are multiple areas in the state, in the Denali Borough that were ready. That were through the whole thing. It's a 3-thing system, right? So you got to be ready, then you get set, then you go. So it's the different stages. And there were multiple subdivisions who were basically under the go alert, which means get out, get to the evacuation point. Then up in Fairbanks, there is the Himalayan Road Fire, which is about 1,500 acres. That's burning north of Fairbanks near the Elliott Highway. And there are a bunch of evacuation orders in place for neighborhoods on the north side of the Chattanooga. According to the Anchorage Daily News, there are about 100 residents and 250 structures that are set to be in the path of that fire as well. There are several other fires burning near Fairbanks and Salcha that were prompting evacuation warnings, but no go alerts as of Saturday. There's also a large fire burning near Chicken, west of the Canadian border, and a ready evacuation alert was issued late Friday for the community of Central, as well as the 28-mile section of the Steese Highway, Circle Hot Springs Road, and Circle Hot Springs itself, according to BLM. And there are a bunch of firefighters who are moving out to the areas, including that big one, again, near Bear Creek, which is right now is the biggest one. There's no, let's see, does it say how much I don't know if it says how many acres the Bear Creek Fire, I think, is the largest one right now. I was just looking to see if it actually gave me some acreage on that one. That was one that I don't think had, let's see, does it say here? Bear Creek. It doesn't give me the numbers on that one. Here we go. Right now, Bear Creek, fire number 237 of the season, over 21,000 acres, and it has now crossed the Parks Highway. And there's a whole bunch of subdivisions in that area around Healy that have been set for evacuation. The Parks Highway, again, only open to 1-lane traffic with a pilot car escort as they go through there. And that is going to be, that's going to continue to be a huge deal. The largest fire that we've got going on so far. St. George Creek Fire is going up. That's 285 acres right now. The Bonneville Creek Fire, that is now been managed it's part of the Bear Creek and St. George Creek Fire complexes, 2,675 acres as well. The Bonanza Creek Fire, also on the Parks Highway, this time near milepost 332. So another 50 miles away is the Bonanza Creek Fire. It's went from 500 acres to nearly 1,600 acres. That's down by Skinny Dick's. They've recommended that the people in the Fairbanks North Star Borough on Skinny Dick's logging road evacuate. Old Nenana Highway, Standard Creek Road is in the ready area, and then anybody from milepost 325 to 330 and 333 to 338 should be set to go. So that's in the, you're, on your mark, get set, go. They're in the middle of set. Then north of the Parks Highway, they've got the Goldstream Creek fire. That's 80 acres. It's spreading east. It's not currently threatening any structures. And again, I mentioned the Himalayan Road fire right now. It's about 1,800 acres or so right now near mile 15 of the Elliott Highway. And there's a whole bunch of folks who are set. All of the Haystack Mountain should be evacuated by this point, which again reminds me of remember that big fire we had back? That was the day that I spent 7 hours broadcasting on the air as they were evacuating Haystack Mountain. I remember that. That was 20 years ago now, I guess 20 years ago, because it started, the whole thing started during my radio show, which at the time was in the evening. And I started broadcasting, and I think I broadcast till 10 or 11 o'clock that night because they were so chaotic and people trying to get in and get out. And we were trying to get as much information as we could out of the Haystack Mountain, Haystack Mountain area. Currently 1,868 acres burning there. The Gilmore Trail fire up there. They've just got mop up going on according to the release here as of Saturday. Ready and set levels are still in place, so they're worried about flare-ups, obviously, but it's only 15.5 acres. Northeast of Delta Junction, there is the 12-mile lake fire. That's the second largest fire that we've got listed here. It's 6,200 acres. It gained over 4,000 acres on Friday alone. And that's near both the Lake George fire and the Sand Lake fire. Their structure protection via air, ground, and boat supported delivery of kits. And they're basically telling people to be prepared. Structures are potentially threatened within 48 hours. So lots of stuff going on out there. If you want to follow along with some of the different what do I want to call it? I guess some of the things to keep you in check and keep you in the know. Then you can go over to the akfireinfo.com. akfireinfo.com. That's the Alaska Wildland Fire Information Center. akfireinfo.com, and they've got all the latest and greatest. And they've also got the GIS maps and stuff that you can take a look at and see where all the fires are, what the areas are, and everything else. So again, akfireinfo.com is the place to go. So you guys be safe out there. Be careful. It's going to be a wild summer, and again, already up to 260 something fires this year alone, and we'll see where we go from here. That's going to be interesting. All right, we got to go. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show continues. Some more stories and discussions. And, of course, we're taking your phone calls on the Operation Midnight Hammer, the strike in Iran. Was it the right thing to do? I mean, there's a lot of people on Facebook who will tell you I thought it was important. Since it's such a big story, we should get back to it. Don't go anywhere. Back with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. How you guys doing this morning? I'm just going backwards. Okay, see where we're at. They had a lot of they have a bit of a snafu and one evac order on Elliott because the road was closed by Haystack, so there's no evac point to the north. We hit that one earlier. When you're dealing with the TDS pandemic, any decision made is nothing more than another opportunity to run around with their torches and pitchforks. I think that there's something to that. Chris said, it was interesting. I received 2 alerts to evacuate from 2 different fires on my phone, and the fire is a long ways from me. Well, I guess define a long ways. A long ways, Chris, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because, I mean, fires can move pretty damn fast. What is my shirt? Oh, it says Wally World Radio. Wally World Radio. It's kind of an inside joke at the radio stations there in Fairbanks. Because, you know, Wally World from Christmas Vacation. And my old boss's name is Wally, Perry Wally. And so it was Wally World Radio. It's an inside joke. Inside joke. I've worn this shirt in years. All right. I'm going through here. Frank says he thinks they are overdoing the evac alerts these years. Well, maybe. And there's a balancing act there, isn't there? There's a balancing act there because you don't want to be Chicken Little and cry that the sky is falling when they don't need to evacuate. But at the same time, you don't want to leave anybody behind. So it's it's kind of crazy. Also, about 4 hours ago, the Israelis bombed the gates of Evin prison in Tehran, where the political prisoners are kept. Okay. I'm seeing. I'm going through here. Cindy said the president removed the threat previous administrations wouldn't do. Yeah. The fire wasn't even close to Gilmore. It was literally on Gilmore, Franks. If you look at the map where it was at, it was literally at the end of Gilmore. It was on the other side of Gilmore Dome, but it was on Gilmore Trail. The road runs right up into there. You can go look at the map and see where it was. But, yeah, I mean... Layla's she's reaching into the Wayback Machine. I love, holy cow. There are 2 extremes to this, and we can look to history for some clarity. When Reagan bombed Libya in 86, we were sure he'd started World War III, but he didn't. Gaddafi settled down and it limited, but didn't completely stop his terrorist activities. Within a year, nobody seriously said Reagan was wrong to have done it. If the other Middle East countries decide to side with Iran, it could be bad, but this is to assume the other Middle East countries thought Iran with a nuclear bomb was in their interests. It's a good point, Layla. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Good morning. We have Himalaya, Salcha, out to Rosie Creek. Okay. There are also pilot cars to lead you just before going into Delta Junction, says Frank. It's not just on the Parks, but if you're going on the Richardson, there are pilot cars there as well. Just another Monday. Let's see. I'm scrolling through here. Haystack received 13 D90 dozers. They're still working with new firefighters. Kevin says the DNR told him last night that the number of lightning strikes near population centers is unprecedented. Well, I'm sure that has to do with global warming or the president, one of the two. Haystack is 30,000 acres. Well, let me go back to that because that's not what it had said before. Interesting. 30,000 acres on Haystack. Well, I mean, Haystack was the one that burned almost 1 million acres 20 years ago, right? Acres. Yeah, that's right. I was broadcasting without a red card. Remember that? I was in so much trouble with the borough mayor I was a shock jock. We got to go here. I guess we're going to jump. I'm still not caught up quite on the other, on all the stuff. Let's get to it. The Michael Duke Show. Melissa says, vote for me for the school board. I'll put a stop to the lightning. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Our chat room is so much fun. We got some of the folks in the chat room are actually up inside these fire areas. So we're getting a little bit of information out of areas like Haystack. Apparently, they were having some problems with the evacuation in that area, but now they've received a whole bunch of dozers, and they're still working. New firefighters are expected on the ground there shortly. So a lot of good information there. We've got some other commentary on the Iran strike from the weekend in the chat room, which we'll go over as well. But the phone lines are open at 319-527-3864 if you want to sound off. And my question was a simple one. Do you think, and I noticed that our resident anti-Trump troll here in the chat room, Harold, didn't sound off on this. I thought he would for sure be saying that we shouldn't be doing what we're doing. But I want your guys' take on this. I mean, was this the right move by the president? Not that we can do anything about it, if it was or not. I think it was the right move. And we can get into that more in hour two as to why I think it was the right move. I am not a fan of getting entangled in foreign wars and everything else. But to me, this was a blitzkrieg strike, shock and awe kind of thing. And it appears to have accomplished the mission. We'll see. We're waiting to see what the response is going to be and what the aftermath is. But Layla in the chat room makes, I think, is a valid comparison. And Layla, if you want to call in and we can discuss this, I think this would be an interesting take on this as well. Layla says there's two extremes to this, and we could look to history for some clarity on that subject. When Reagan bombed Libya in 1986, we were sure he'd started World War III, but he didn't. Gaddafi settled down, and it limited, but didn't completely stop, his terrorist activities. Within a year, nobody seriously said Reagan was wrong to have done it. If the other Middle East countries decide to side with Iran, it could be bad, but this is assuming that the other Middle East countries thought Iran with a nuclear bomb was in their interest. So, I mean, and I think that's a valid point of view to go back and look through the lens of history and say, this has happened before. Strength through peace, right? That's peace through strength, right? That's the thing, but strength comes first. So that's what, that's what I think we're looking at here right now. I don't think they didn't see it coming. They had no thought that this was coming. So do I think this is good? Yes. And I can get into the reasons why in a little bit. Although, again, I'm not a national commentator. I'll be the first to tell you that's we don't normally handle that on this program. I gave that up many years ago. But I do think it's a good idea. But, I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you have reservations. Or maybe you're in full support. But I would love to hear what you have to say. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864 if you want to call in and tell us about it. We could, we if you want, we can go through the full rundown of exactly how it all played out and exactly what, how we did it. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say as well to talk about the precision strike. And we can do a little breakdown on that, whatever you want to do. But first, let's go over to the phones. I see that Willie is on the line. Willie Keppel from Bethel joins us this morning. Let's get things started and see what he has to say. We got 3 lines on hold now. Good morning, Willie. What's on your mind?
Well, good morning. I'm sitting here thinking back years and years ago when I was a young guy in my mid-30s. I'm 71 now. I guided a guy on a Dall sheep hunt, and his name was Mo Tapaz, and he was the Shah of Iran's nephew. And it was a pretty interesting story. Sit there 10 days in the woods with him in the hills, and he was, I think, one of the nicest, smartest guys I ever guided in my entire life. And I guided a lot of people on hunts, but he had a take on it, and I was too young at the time and too naive, worldly wise, to really ask the questions that I had the opportunity to ask. I just plain flat didn't know enough. But I look back on it, and I remember some of the stuff he said about when they had to pack up. He says, my uncle says everybody's on the jet and we're climbing on it this evening. And the entire palace packed up and climbed on the jet and came to America. And I remember asking him, I says, well, what do you think's going to happen in the future with this? And he told me, he says, the world's going to have to slap down the Ayatollahs. He says they have no idea how radical they are and how out of place in this world compared to Western civilization, how they do not fit in and will never fit in. And he says, you're going to have to deal with them sooner or later. And that's kind of what I took away from it. And, hindsight, I'd really love to be able to go sit down and have that hunt to do over again.
Right.
I've got somewhere in all my stuff stacked around here. I have a video. He tipped over a real nice Dall ram and I rolled him right down to our feet. I have that on videos in my stuff, but it would be interesting to be able to sit there. All I know is last I heard he was still building skyscrapers on Manhattan Island. So they came with plenty of money, I guarantee you that, and plenty of education. He was super conservative, which suited me because I've always been conservative. But it was pretty interesting, and that's kind of what I had for the day, I guess. Just my one little
right.
thought line there.
That's a little gem of history there. I mean, I'm assuming that you're in support of you're following what he said, that we had to slap him down. This is kind of just what he said, right? So you support what happened?
Oh, I absolutely support it and knew that it was coming. In fact, actually in Bethel, which I do not live in Bethel. Please don't confuse me with that shit.
Right. That's
anyway. We had a Marine there that he passed away, but he was in the bombing in Beirut when the terrorists killed 280 some Marines. Yeah, we've known it was coming. They were there specifically dealing with the terrorism, and it's always been funded from Iran with their oil.
Right.
Right. Beirut doesn't have oil.
Right. No.
They have money to fund terrorists.
Yeah. Again, they're the number one state sponsor of terror in the world. So definitely some interesting stuff. All right, Willie. Well, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you being part of it this morning. Thanks for sounding off. Good story there. Let's continue on over here. Another call from Fairbanks. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Layla from Fairbanks.
Oh, hey, Layla. It's good to have you. Thanks for calling in. I thought that was a great comparative. I mean, again, going back to Reagan, I had forgotten about that. And I think it's in hindsight, it looks great, right? But it's, of course, at the time, you're right. There was a whole lot of fervor about, oh, my God, we're now on the brink of World War III.
Right. And that's what I'm seeing out there on Facebook and social in general, is everybody's freaking out that the World War III has started, or they're, yay, Reagan. Well, here's the thing. The United States shouldn't be involved in other people's wars, period. But historically speaking, when we've done these targeted strikes, it hasn't set off World War III. And Iran with a nuclear bomb would be like somebody with a suicide vest on.
Right.
Pretty much you do whatever they want you to do because you don't want them to set off the suicide vest.
Right.
And that's what we're faced with here. What would Iran have done with a bomb?
Right.
Well, I don't think it would have done anything good.
Well, right. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, as libertarians, you and I both are, no, we don't want to get entangled in foreign wars. We should be paying attention. But when an outside entity basically is chanting death to you over and over and over again, and has been for 50 years, and then they're trying to get a weapon of mass destruction like this, and they're the number one state sponsor of all these minor terrorist cells around the world, not just in their backyard, but everywhere. At some point you have to go, okay, look, I'm not for war, but I'm also want to keep our way of life going. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and while I know a lot of libertarians who would say Iran doesn't have the ability to touch America, that may be true. They definitely have the ability to touch Tel Aviv. And the Israelis had every right to attack them, to stop them from getting the means to turn Tel Aviv into a sea of glass. I don't blame them for that.
Right.
And so it's just like frustrating to have these people who are just like, oh, well, this was just totally wrong and it's going to, set the world afire. Maybe it'll set the world afire. But then it comes down to, do I really think that Qatar and these other countries are going, oh, we're going to jump on board with Iran right now and support them.
Right.
And I'm thinking, they thought they were crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Qatar,
why would they do that?
Dubai, I mean, all these secular states, do you really think that they're going to want the theocrats in Iran telling them how to live their lives? I mean, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. All right, Layla, I'm coming up on the break. Thank you so much for sounding off. It was a great point. I appreciate you calling in this morning. I got one more line on hold, but I am up against the top of the hour. And it's a hard stop. I can't do it. So caller, hold the line for you for just a second. We'll be back with more of the Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Let's go over to the caller real quick and see if they'll stick with us through the top of the hour news here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Gerald. I'm a retired Army.
Okay, Gerald, can you, are you willing to hold on through the news? Because we're in the break right now. We're not on the radio. Will you hold on just a minute?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'll take your call right.
Yes, I can hold.
Right when I come back. Hold on, Gerald. We'll be right back to you. Don't go anywhere. All right. Let me go back over here. Oh, Harold. I just don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Okay. All right. There's no definitive proofs that the facilities were totally destroyed. Still waiting for more intel. Yes. And of course, that's part of the problem is that, they don't know how much human intelligence is actually on the ground there. That's the, it's kind of crazy. The war in Iran has been going on since biblical times. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Okay, going through there. Thank you to Congressman Nick Begich for coming out this past weekend and hearing not only our community, but especially our veterans. Yeah, I guess Nick was up in the Fairbanks area. Nick and Sullivan were up there as well. So interesting times. That was for the Midnight Sun game and everything else that went on up there. Okay. We're all caught up. Gerald's on the blower here. We're going to get back to him here in just a second, and we will continue. We certainly don't even know how much intelligence on the ground is. Wow, Brian. Wow. I mean, wow. Thank you. Thank you for throwing that out there as well. Okay. We could smell haystack in Anchorage. Yeah, no, back in the day, 20 years ago, when that fire went on, that 1 million acre fire, the smoke drifted all the way down. I remember reports of that the smoke had drifted all the way down into the Matsu in Anchorage. That was a huge, huge fire. 990 something thousand acres by the time it was all said and done. It was great. Senator Sullivan actually does the midnight sun run, says Miguel. Oh, he came up and ran the run, and he made a surprise visit to Rep Beggage's fundraiser. It was great. Well, good. Hey, look, it's Anthony. Everybody was wondering if you were evacuated somewhere. Personally, I don't even care if Iran did or didn't actually have a pathway to nukes. For essentially the last 40 years, Iran has been the boogeyman to modern society. At some point, the bully has to get his nose bloodied, so he sits down and STFU. Shuts the freak up. That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Interesting commentary on everything right now. But I mean, I think that most of the people, especially in the light of hindsight, understand. And this is the same kind of thing that we've seen before, where lightning strikes, or I guess precision strikes. I shouldn't say because the force fires and everything. I guess I should say not lightning strikes, because that could get confusing. But precision strikes, short, single precision strikes, can make a big difference. And yeah, they walked this thing like right across the finish line. They had no idea the B-2s were even there until the bombs hit. They did not get a single they did not get a single shot fired back at any of the B-2s or their escorts, or anything else. And they in and out. Nobody even knew they were there. It's kind of spooky how good they were about getting in and getting out. All right. Let's see. Where are we at here? I'm going back through the timeline here of the strike and everything else. Oh, you guys are killing me. Anthony says, no evacuation here yet. Thanks for caring, though. Just late because I've managed to catch whatever this bubonic plague is of a sore throat cough mess, and it was a Theraflu. It was in a Theraflu coma. Well, good for you, my friend. Take it easy. There's been some nastiness going around. Absolute nastiness. With several people that I know have come down with the bubonic plague, whatever it is. I don't want it. Yeah, man, everybody's a critic. No, not everybody, just Harold. Those bombers have a 30,000-mile range, said Brian. Looks like they refueled, according to one of the infographics that they had out there, it looks like they refueled 3 times. Once on the edge of the East Coast, once in the Mid-Atlantic, and then once as they approached the Eastern Mediterranean. Looks like that they refueled 3 times on the way through there, just to make sure that they were all good. But boom, man, boom. It was pretty crazy shot. Some interesting stuff. All right, we got to go. We're about to jump back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio. Hour 2. And Gerald's phone call is up next.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show. Streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. We welcome you to hour 2 of the big radio show. Phone lines are open this morning. We're talking about the Iran strikes and whether or not you thought the president did the right thing. Is this the right move at the right time? And I opened up the phone lines in hour 2 to get some calls on that. Gerald is on the line. He's been on hold throughout the top of the hour. We appreciate him waiting here. Gerald, what are your thoughts this morning?
Hello, Michael. I've been a long-time listener. I'm out here in East Tennessee, retired Army, and I started voting in '79 when I graduated high school. So I'm a little young to go back further than that. But I support President Trump's on this 100%. We've been doing this for decades, and I think he has all the right in the world to do it.
Well, 79, you were right there. I mean, that's Iran hostage crisis time, and the failed attempt to retrieve the hostages by Carter, the emboldenment of the Iranian regime. And then as soon as President Reagan got in there, mysteriously those hostages were all released. I mean, again, they recognize one thing: they recognize strength, right?
Exactly. That's the only thing they recognize is what we do as a free nation through strength.
Right.
Well, and you can't change their minds.
No, I don't think you can. I mean, and again, they've been chanting death to America, death to the West, the great Satan and the little Satan, right? America and Israel. They've been since 1979. I mean, right there. They've been saying that same thing for, damn near 50 years.
Yes, they have. But I'll make it short, and I just want to show my support, and I love listening to you.
Well, I appreciate
out
that.
Here in East Tennessee.
That's crazy. Out in East Tennessee, listening to the show. That's crazy. I appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in this morning, Gerald. We appreciate it.
You have a good day, and be safe in them fires.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. Now, again, as I said earlier in hour 1, we don't normally take on national or international issues on this, but this is such a big deal. And it made so many, and like I said, the internet lost its collective mind on Sunday because of the Saturday night program. I thought it was a viable question to ask. So we've been talking about wildfires and everything else this morning going on here in the state, but also finding out from you whether or not you supported this idea. Now, I said earlier that I did support the strike, but that I would give reasons, because generally speaking, I'm not a fan of getting involved in foreign country stuff. That's really not, I think that's where America has gone wrong in a lot of ways. But this instance, I believe was the right thing for many reasons. I mean, Layla pointed out one that I'd even forgotten about with the bombing in Libya and the slapping down of Gaddafi. But it's that same kind of action that has worked repeatedly in the past. And when you have a country that is literally preaching death to your country, to your way of life, to your people, who would willingly, kill all the members of your family in the name of some kind of religious zeal, I think that that is enough of a reason. Again, the number one state sponsor of terror in the world, and the fact that they could have their hands or get their hands in the near future on nuclear weapons or even fissile material, because it's not necessarily even about delivering a working nuclear weapon, as much as if they had enough fissile material, they could, create a whole network of dirty bombs. They've been supporting guerrillas and, covert terrorist cells around the world. And with our border as bad as it's been over the last few years, who's to say they couldn't sneak stuff in to the United States and have a dirty bomb instead of a real full-on nuclear weapon? Either one would be horrific. But I think that this was the right play at the right time. And again, I don't want us to get involved in anything else. I think basically the slap down to say, do it again. I don't want to see boots on the ground, but this was a slap down play that even if it knocks them back 5 years or maybe 10 years on the outside in their program, with the help of people like Israel who are on their doorstep, that this was a good thing, in my opinion. Now, you could tell me that I'm wrong, or you could tell me that you agree with me, whatever you want, but the phone lines are open at 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. This whole plan took place over the weekend. It started out, as I said earlier, with a feint, a misdirection. A group of B-2 stealth bombers traveled west from Missouri on Saturday as decoys, drawing the attention of amateur plane spotters and government officials and some of the media as they headed towards Guam. At the same time, 7 other B-2s carrying 2 bunker buster bombs apiece, these were 30,000-pound monster bombs, flew eastward. According to Air Force General Dean Cain, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, they said it was all part of the plan to maintain tactical surprise, and only an extremely small number of planners and key leaders knew about it in Washington and Florida, where CENTCOM is. So they flew 18 hours of kind of, they said furtive flying, which I don't know if it's nap of the earth or high altitude or what, but they were B-2s. And they did midair refueling, each with the B-2s, each with 2 crew members arrived on time and without detection in the Eastern Mediterranean, where they then launched their attack runs. Before crossing into Iran, they were escorted by stealthy U.S. fighters, which I'm assuming are F-22s. And then a graphic released by the Pentagon showed the flight route as passing over Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. And nobody knows whether or not they were even notified of the U.S. overflight, but they did it. About an hour before the B-2s entered Iran, the U.S. submarine in the region launched more than 24 Tomahawk cruise missiles against key targets, including the site at Isfahan, where that's the uranium enrichment site. Then the bombers approached their targets and kept an eye out for Iranian jets and surface-to-air missiles, but encountered absolutely none of them. Then at 6:40 p.m. Washington time on Saturday night, the first bombers dropped a pair of GBU-57, they call them bunker busters. And it was the first time they'd ever been used in combat. They're designed to burrow into the ground before detonating a massive warhead underneath the ground. Fordo received the bulk of the bombardment, through a couple of anonymous bombs were also dropped on Natanz as well. Natanz. The bombs fell for about half an hour, with cruise missiles fired from submarines being the last American weapons to hit the target, which included, again, Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz. And they said both Iran and the UN nuclear agency said that there's no immediate signs of radioactive contamination around the sites. So there's a pretty good, it's a pretty good shot when they get in there, deliver 75 precision guided weapons, including, again, 14 of the bunker busters, plus all the Tomahawk cruise missiles that came through, included 125 aircraft, including B-2 fighter jets and refueling planes. And it is the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history, the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeding only those that were flown in the days following 9/11, according to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. So kind of a bust down and a breakdown of everything that happened with this strike over the weekend. And, of course, the first thing we hear out of Iran is, oh, well, you did not hit anything. We moved it days before. You were not paying attention, and we moved it days before, which I don't know if anybody believes or not. The president, in his speech on Sunday, said that it was the facilities were obliterated, completely destroyed, he said. But there's still unknown as to whether or not it was absolutely as decimated as they thought they were. So we'll see where it goes from here. But again, I'm fully in agreement with this, because a bully, it definitely is something that's needed to happen for a long time. After 50 years of shouting death to America, death to Israel, and death to everyone around them, eventually the bully's got to get punched in the nose. And I think that was the right thing to do here. All right. That's right. Thank you, Chris. Chris said it reminds me of the Baghdad Bob days. Remember Baghdad Bob? Does everybody remember Baghdad Bob? We will stop you, Americans. We will do. There was Americans behind him in the picture, driving next. We will kill you in the streets, and you will never take us. You will never take us. I remember that. But that it did. It's very much a Baghdad Bob situation when you say you drop these bombs, and then they're like, oh, psych, we moved it last week. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll believe you. I believe you. We believe you so much on that. All right, we got to go. We're going to be back here in a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Back right after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Sourdough is not, it's not a bad point. Sourdough Steel said, when Layla said, I doubt Iran would have used their bomb for good. I said, who uses a bomb for good? Well, I mean, true. I guess the only good you could say would be that it was a deterrent. Yeah, that would be, that would be it. Yeah. Can't talk PFD, says Harold. That's gone. Can't talk school improvement. That's being cut. I mean, you're the one that's been saying this whole time that we shouldn't be backfilling the school funding inside the formula, and then it happens and now you're criticizing it? Have some consistency, my good man. Have some consistency. Although I guess you could argue that you being contrary to everything is consistent. So touche, I guess. Touche. Amir Tasarfati said that the aerial attacks by the Israeli Defense Force had to be in waves to get all the way down into the deepest areas. Yeah, that's why they dropped these. That's why they dropped these there. All right. Going through. Okay. The very day that Reagan took office, the hostages were released. Yeah. I mean, that was it. They're like, nope, we knew it's exactly what's going to happen. Okay. 7 bombs, but how many bombers? No, there was 7 bombers, 14 bombs, 2 bombs per bomber. That's what they said. 14 of those GU-57 30,000-pound killers. Iran is going to try and send terrorists to the USA. I mean, I would think we would be foolish to think that there isn't already some Iranian terrorists here in the U.S. Yeah. Anthony said, I think our only mistake is stopping the bombing. I've got a few buddies missing limbs and who never came home from deployments from Iranian-funded IEDs. He said, I'd factory reset the whole country's infrastructure back to the Stone Age and make sure they learn the lesson. Yeah, it's that's true. Did you just tonk? I didn't tonk. Maybe. Too much Star Citizen for you, says Chris. I haven't played in like a week and a half, man. I've been waiting for the new patch. All right. Let's see. There are already likely sleeper cells here, thanks to mumbling Kid Sniffer and his borders are leaving the door wide open. And with a lack of vetting, I would bet they brought some materials with them as well. At this point, about all anyone can do is stay frosty and find some form of comfort in living in an open carry state, even though your side won't do much to stop a suicide bomber. Yeah, I mean, it's there. I think we would be remiss if we felt like we were completely and totally safe from that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. I think we're caught up here. I'm mostly caught up. We'll get back to it. All right. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Please like and share, follow, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. Let's get to it. Here we go. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. All right. Phone lines are open. 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say this morning in regards to the Iranian strike on the 3 facilities of Fodor, Isfahan, and Natanz. Was it the right thing to do? Was it the right thing to do? I believe it was, yes. But I also agree with Joel in the chat room who said no boots on the ground. No, I think this is a one-time targeted strike. They got in, they got out. Nobody was the wiser till the booming started on the ground. I think this is a good thing. And we'll see where it goes from here. I mean, only time will tell. But again, this is what happens to strongmen regimes who are, again, utilizing terror as a way to try and change the hearts and minds of people around the country. Again, Gaddafi is a great example that Layla brought up earlier this morning as well. So anyway, the phone lines are open if you want to talk about that this morning. Let's get back over into some of the well, I mean, I guess we should touch on this real quick because this is interesting. You knew that Dan Sullivan was going to be supportive of the president. You knew that was going to happen. Dan Sullivan said he supports his position on the bombing. He said making sure the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism never gets a nuclear weapon is part of the work of reestablishing the deterrence against Iran, which was lost during the appeasement of the Biden administration. This is difficult work, but critical for our national security. I fully support the president and his national security teams in those critical efforts. Nick Begich had spoke earlier in the week before the attack, and he said he had no special knowledge about what was coming in the coming weeks or days or months. But he said, I think the ball is at this moment in Iran's court. Do they want to be a member of the international community or not? He said that's been made clearly, not just by the U.S., but by many of our friends and allies around the world, is that we cannot allow them to become a nuclear armed nation. We don't need another nation, particularly one like Iran, to gain the ability to attack with nuclear weapons. We've already seen what that they have hypersonics and are willing to use them. A nuclear-tipped hypersonic could be very difficult to intercept, and it creates an asymmetrical capacity in a nation that has made, quote, death to Israel and death to America official policy. So, yeah, I think that's good. But what was most surprising to me was that Murkowski, Lisa Murkowski, commented. Now, it was hours after the strike, after he had delivered his speech, but she said, President Trump's decision to carry out focused strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure makes clear that the international community will not tolerate a nuclear-armed Iran. I commend all those who executed this mission with precision and professionalism. So, that surprising that she actually got behind the president on that, of all things, to make it so. So definitely a surprising comment on coming out of Murkowski's office. Now, speaking of Murkowski, she's got a brand new book that just hit the bookshelves this morning. Just hit Amazon this morning, and it's called Far From Home. Far From Home. An Alaska senator faces the extreme climate of Washington, D.C. Now, what really is telling to me about this book, more than anything else, is who her writer is for this memoir. Her writer is Charles Wohlforth. Now, if you've been following Charles Wohlforth for as long as I have on this program, that's never a good look. That's never a good look. He is a columnist with some seriously progressive views. Seriously, on the thing. Now, it's already generating buzz in the Beltway. Murkowski has tried to raise her profile here in the last few weeks, and been doing some different interviews and things like that. And we all know, because her new book was coming out, right? That was the thing. The book, it basically, according to Amazon's marketing copy, it says the book offers a candid account of how things get done in Washington, telling the story of Murkowski's political rise from her appointment to the Senate by her father to her engineered comeback after losing the 2010 Republican primary to Joe Miller, becoming a write-in candidate. It also revisits a pivotal national moments in which Murkowski cast deciding and defining votes, including her opposition to the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh, her vote to convict President Donald Trump for his second impeachment, and her stance against efforts to fully examine what happened in the 2020 election. And then apparently there's a slug on the front of the book that from Mitt Romney, who bastardizes Robert Frost. And two paths diverge, and Lisa Murkowski took the one less traveled. Anyway, of course, the thing that they don't mention in there is a lot of her support for a lot of the Biden initiatives that she had, the green initiatives, and her pivotal role in confirming Deb Haaland as the Secretary of Interior. And of course, all the other stuff that they've left out of there is her complete and total censure by the Republican Party and the dissatisfaction with many of her party members with what she's been doing in Washington. That's all left out there. Oh, and ranked choice voting. They don't mention ranked choice voting at all, which, of course, helped her retain her seat in this last election. But the book's out. If you want to go spend some money and read it, you can you can check it. Far From Home, from Senator Lisa Murkowski, out now, trying to craft her legacy so that you know what it looks like when it's all said and done. That's the good stuff. All I can think of is how many people are actually going to buy that. That's, I mean, I could see a lot of people in Washington buying it, DC buying it, those kind of things, outsiders. But how many people in Alaska are actually going to, we lived it. We don't need to revisit it. We lived it. Right. Oh man. All right. What else we got here? We talked about the wildfires. We talked about all that. And there was another, what was it? Here it is. Kevin McCabe. Kevin McCabe has got yet another. He's been very prolific in his writing recently, and I like it. I like it. He writes very well. And his latest piece over in Must Read is entitled Alaska's Education Cartel is Counting Kids for Cash. And he talks a lot about the Alaska education industry, what he calls the Alaska Education Industrial Complex, which I think he stole that from me, but I'm not gonna make a fuss about it too much, not too much. And he goes on to talk about how this is, what's really sad about this whole situation is that it's not so much what kids have learned or achieve that seems to be the proper benchmark for the education industry, but instead how much revenue they generate. That really seems to be, because again, we talked about this during the legislative session when they were trying to bring all these these bills to fruition. And the governor was asking for some policy changes to actually see if we could find a way to make the educational outcomes better. And of course, the answer was, shut up and give us our money. Just shut up and give us our money. It's because you've starved us that we're here, and we're not going to give you any kind of accountability. We're not going to give you any kind of benchmarks, or we're not going to give you any policy. Just shut up and give us our money. Kevin goes on to say, I agree with the governor on this. Funding without accountability is a disservice to Alaska's children. The BSA veto is not about starving education. Rather, it's a challenge to a system that's been protecting itself for too long. He goes on to talk about the foundation formula and how, we've been using that to fund education, but that it's outdated, flawed, and designed to feed the system, not the student. Now, ironically enough, our own resident troll in chief here, Harold, has said the same thing. That it shouldn't, the money should not be going to the base student allocation, but instead that needs to be refactored, and we should be looking at other ways to fund education. The whole thing is tied to the average daily membership, so that means every student is a line in a ledger. When the enrollment declines, as it has for the last 8-9 years, districts scramble not to improve outcomes, but to maintain funding. That's not education, he says. That's a survival of a failing business. And we've talked about this. The continuing decline in enrollment is really one of the prime driving factors of this whole situation. That it's not the fact that the state has stopped reduced the funding per se. It's the fact that they are losing students. The Anchorage School District lost 6,600 students since 2010. Now, each one of those kids accounts for what, 7, 8, 9,000 with all the escalators baked in, right? Because yes, it's a $5,000 BSA base roughly. But by the time you figure in all the factors and the extra points and everything else, it's like $7,800 per kid. So when you're doing that times 6,600 students, now it's some real money. But instead of looking at how do we increase the outcomes, how do we do better at teaching them, how do we do, instead of doing that, what do? Well, then they double down with high-cost projects like $50 million to rebuild Inlet View Elementary. But the schools are half empty. Classrooms are shuttered. Programs are being cut. And families are basically told there's just not enough money. Oh, when they have more administrators on top of that. I mean, it gets better and better, right? He goes on to talk about rural schools. He goes on to talk about his proposed amendment to HB 69, which would have consolidated the school districts from 54 down to 30. And that would have saved tens of millions of dollars, but that got pushed back from the Alaska Council of School Administrators, from superintendents, from school boards, from public sector unions. They don't want it. It's not about the kids. It's about protecting those jobs that are duplicated because there's many duplications of effort. It's about that. And then he finishes up with a whole thing about, we've reached a point where less than 30% of our students are proficient in English or math. We're dead last in reading. 1 in 5 young Alaskans is disconnected from school and the workforce entirely. And that just creates a self-licking ice cream cone where people start leaving because the education is not great, thereby taking more people out and more students out of the system, thereby dropping the funding even more. And it's just this doom loop. It's a great piece. You should go over and read it. It's over on Must Read Alaska, opinion piece from Kevin McCabe. Alaska's education cartel is counting kids for cash. You should go read it at your earliest convenience. All right, we got more coming up. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Let's see. Did they determine if that church attack in Mississippi, Missouri, was a terrorist. Michigan was a terrorist attack. Let's see. Oh, wow. Did he get blocked? If he didn't, then I've done blocked him. I wasn't paying attention to the chat room there for a second. And I don't know if Brian got to this or not, but sorry about that. Okay. There we go. We'll delete all that stuff. Wow. Wow. Okay. I see that. Woo. Okay. Well, guys, I apologize. I wasn't paying attention to the chat. I wasn't paying attention to the chat room, and that apparently was a mistake. And apparently, Brian was not in the chat room at the time to drop the hammer there. So I fixed it. I fixed it now. I've fixed it now. So there we go. While we go through here, I'm sorry. I'm just deleting all these different comments here. Oh, you managed to ban him. Okay. Well, good. I'm just deleting the comments here. I don't know if Brian, if you have that potential, and I'm looking at it through a different interface. So I don't know if you've already deleted these and I'm just looking at old ones or not, but yeah, somebody got real happy with their stuff there this morning. All right. So we're deleting comments that don't agree with the group's main opinion now. My good morning comment is still in the YouTube chat, but not my opinion on the strikes. I haven't deleted anything except for this person that's using vulgarity and slurs. It's the only thing I've deleted. It's the only thing. I rarely ever delete anything unless, again, it's something that is something like this. So I'm going to see what's going on. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm closing it down right now. I'm just shutting it all down. This is probably the same person that put the show hotline, the call-in line, on a spam telemarketer list. I had about 4,800 numbers call in the last hour ever since I opened up the phone lines this morning for this. Obviously, somebody was very upset that we would dare to take your calls on this topic. So, all right. I'm still deleting comments, guys. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm still deleting comments from this, whoever this guy is. It's somebody on Facebook. Deleting. Okay. All right. Well, what I'm still, geez. Okay. Well, let me just finish this real quick. Okay. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Yes, it was on Facebook. Sorry about that. I finally got the last of them. About 40 comments that were all just derogatory and nasty. But yeah, I finally got them all on Facebook. Some people, what are you going to do? Some people. Here we go. Let's get back to it.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
All right, welcome back to the program. It is the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We are continuing now one final segment of the show this morning, and we're ready to rock and roll here throughout the last 10 minutes or so. Phone lines are still open at 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you would like to call up and give us your thoughts on what's going on with the whole Iranian thing, we'd love to hear that. Apparently, somebody didn't like the fact that I was bringing that up throughout the show this morning. Starting about 45 minutes ago, there has been about 45 different 800 spam numbers that have hit the call-in line, and then somebody jumped into the chat room this morning and was spouting racial slurs and all kinds of stuff before we finally got him deleted and blocked on there. This is what happens when they can't argue back to you with common sense, with logic, with reason. It's attack, attack, attack. That's what it's about. And that's really saddens me. What I would love to have had this morning was somebody who called up and told me that I was wrong and gave me some good articulable arguments about why I was wrong, and we could have had a discussion about it or a conversation. But instead, it is, ad hominem attacks, it's harassment, it's, whatever, doxing, whatever you want to say, it is. It's those kind of harassments when they can't make a rational, reasonable argument on this kind of stuff. And it's kind of sad. We should be able to have, we should be able to have disagreements. We should be able to have disagreements and be able to, work through those things and maybe not even convince each other one way or the other. Maybe not convince each other one way or the other, but to at least have that conversation about what we believe and why we believe it. And that's kind of the frustrating part about where we're at today. And even when I it's like this weekend, like I said, social media kind of blew up over this whole thing in Iran. And I only kind of scrolled for about 15 minutes or so before I was like, okay, I'm done. Enough internet for today. But the same people who are losing their minds over some of the things that this president has done, which, again, I'm not a fan of everything this president's done. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, just kind of the lack of self-reflection about some of the same things that were being done under President Biden or President Obama or President Clinton or whoever. Right? I mean, that's the thing that kills me. That they don't see the conundrum. They don't see the hypocrisy of calling out the one but not calling out the other. I've called out plenty of people on both sides of the aisle throughout the years, presidents that I supported and ones that I didn't. But it's kind of that willful blindness that we talk about. And it really has hurt our ability to have any kind of rational discourse in this country. That we can't have a conversation where we literally, in the end, agree to disagree. And that's a shame. Because we should be able to have an exchange of ideas, whether you like the ideas or not. Whether you agree with the ideas, we should be able to at least have an exchange of ideas and be able to sharpen our own arguments against them. If you don't like what the position is, well, then come up with a better argument. That's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. Somebody's done the same thing now to my personal cell phone. My cell phone's been ringing off the hook for 30 minutes now from a variety of numbers because, again, they want to harass you. They don't want to have a conversation because they're cowardly, because they can't stand by their arguments. That's part of the problem. They can't stand by their arguments. And that's typical. And it's unfortunate. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. But as of right now, this is not going to help. This does not help further the conversation. If you want to have a conversation, you want to have a discussion, well, we can do that, whether you agree or disagree. But at least we should have an honest and valid conversation. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. If you want to sound off, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Feel free to give us a ring, and we'll dial it in here and see what you guys have to say. Looks like I have one line on hold right now that is a legitimate Alaska number. And so we'll test drive it here and see if it's true. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael. This is Bradley.
Hey, Bradley.
I'm currently up on a slope.
Oh, okay.
Working.
Oh, what's on your mind, Bradley?
Well, so this is like one of the few times that I actually disagree with your opinion.
Okay.
Actually, I do not believe that the strikes were a wise move.
Okay.
In my mind, it was, it's an act of war. And just him unilaterally doing that all on his own wasn't the right move. And I kind of feel like there's no difference between us and Russia now at this point because of, their preemptive strike on Ukraine. Well, we just did the same thing.
I would argue that the difference between us and Russia is that Russia, it was an invasion. It was a preemptive strike followed by an invasion. I don't think that we have any intention of invading Iran. Also, Ukraine was not crying death to Russia for 50 years prior to that happening. The president has some unilateral power to be able to do some things to prosecute strikes and things like that, but it can't proceed longer than 30 days or 90 days without congressional approval. So there is some precedent to this, but I understand. Do you think that, do you think that it was valid in taking away their ability to develop nuclear weapons, or, do you think that that's a false flag? What's your thought on that?
Well, I'm more of the opinion that we should just leave the rest of the world alone because we got plenty of our own problems, right?
Sure.
I'm kind of sick and tired of our forever wars that we continue to get ourselves into. Yeah, bad guys shouldn't have nukes. I get that, but half the world thinks the United States are bad guys.
Well, true, but the United States is also not funding terrorist cells and chanting death to other countries publicly as a part of their actual governmental policy. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. We should get out of foreign entanglements. I agree with that. But at the same time, even though you want to be left alone, doesn't mean that they, in this case Iran, are going to leave you alone, right?
I agree. However, we may not call it state-sponsored terrorism, but through the CIA, we stick our fingers in all kinds of stuff.
Well, that is
and
true.
we just call it covert ops.
Touche. That is that you're not 100. You're not wrong on that. Absolutely. And I can see your position. Like I said, I, for one, though, have just always felt like Iran has needed to be held in check. And if somebody doesn't do it, and if we're the only ones that can do it, then so be it. If we delayed their program by 5 years or 8 years or 2 years, I think it was worth it at that point.
Well, I get that, and Israel already started doing that. So why not let them handle their own issues instead of us?
Well, because they didn't have the technology to get to these facilities. That was the problem. They've been, they had to do multiple rains of bombings to be able to get to some of these bunkers where they had to drop, bomb after bomb to get through the screens, to drop bomb after bomb after bomb, because the targets were so deep. We're the only ones that had these big bombs, the big bunker busters, to be able to make it happen. So, but I can see your viewpoint, and I don't agree with it, but I can see it, and I think it's a valid viewpoint. So, anyway, Brad, I appreciate it. I'm running out of time here. Thank you for calling this morning. I appreciate you calling in and being a counterpoint for me today.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Let's go over here. Jennifer's on the phone. Let's see what she has to say. Good morning, Jen.
You must have looked up my number.
I did. Well, I know. I just look. Trust me. It tells me who it is. What's going on?
Well, I just wanted to call in and offer you some encouragement because Fairbanks misses you, and even as conservatives, you and I haven't always agreed. But it is caught the last end here. I was running a little late this morning, and you're right. It's just I've been thinking over and over about how the civility is missing from civil discourse, and these disruptive tactics. Oh, look at me, I'm a disruptor. Well, some of us really are disruptors by the ideas that we put out, and just because they make people uncomfortable doesn't mean that my uncomfortable idea is what's bullying or what is incivil. What is incivil is what's happening right now with the, can't come up with a better argument, so let's block the phone lines. Can't come up with a better argument, so let's hurl insults. And, I am a conservative like you, but some of my best conversations have been with my dear friend, Beth Kurtula, liberal, lives in Juneau. Maybe she'll hear this, somebody will tell her about it, but we have sat down over the biggest controversial issues. She was the keynote speaker on the steps of the Capitol to ban wolf control and aerial predator management,
right,
while I was championing the ballot initiative to keep it legal.
Right.
And
no, this is exactly the problems. Jen, I'm out of time. Hold the line. Back with more of the Michael Duke Show. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm sorry, Jen. I was up against the top of the hour there. I'll let you finish your thought. Go ahead.
No worries. Just that, we got to bring the civility back to civil discourse if we're going to make any progress. But a lot of people don't want to make progress. They just want to be, they just want the satisfaction of having caused trouble.
Well, that's the thing. Some people just want to watch the world burn, right? I mean, that's the thing. They just want to spread chaos. Other people, have kind of been sucked into it. I don't think that that's their nature, but I think that that's how they think if they shout the loudest or do whatever, that they can make it happen. We need to be able to have the ability to have rational, reasonable discourse and agree to disagree, like Bradley. I mean, I disagree with him, but I think he made some valid points. I don't think that it's still, I still think it was worth it. But I disagree with him. Why can't we have more conversations like that these days?
Because we need to have more conversations like that to, I don't know, we're on the radio and I don't want to just burn time, but you don't deserve that. The conservatives I know that have had their tires slashed don't deserve that. The Democrats that I know that have had their houses egged don't deserve that. Let's just start having some discussions about it. If you're angry, go away, deal with it, go pout.
Right.
But don't be doing what they're doing.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's a childish maneuver, and it's basically like throwing a tantrum. It doesn't really help anything. It doesn't help your cause. It doesn't share anything, and it doesn't broaden the conversation, which is what we really need to do. So, all right, Jen. Well, it's good to hear from you. Thanks for calling.
Content. Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being part of it today. We appreciate that. And that brings us to the end of the show for today. So let me turn off the phones.
Goodbye.
So that we don't get another million phone calls in the meanwhile. All right, my friends. Well, that's it for today. Tomorrow, Brad Keithley, Chris Story comes in, and of course, you to help us out, to be part of it. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Dukes Show. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Dukes Show.